Hello everyone, welcome to the 2024 Libertarian Party of Alabama Convention. We're starting off with our lunch keynote speaker, John Sophocleus. I know John Sophocleus a little bit. We ended up spending some time together during the 2022 election. He was running for a U.S. Senator and he's a prior gubernatorial candidate. He's also been an economics professor at Auburn, Clemson, and AUM. He's a member of the Mises Institute and also writes for the Alabama Gazette. He's also the winner of the Hall of Liberty, which is our highest award here at the Libertarian Party of Alabama for 2023. And so I'd like to welcome him up to the stage, Mr. John Sophocleus.
Well, it's an honor to be the first speaker with respect to kicking off our 2024 convention. I'll try and go a little bit short, keep it in bounds so that we can get on track. I find it on Groundhog's Day appropriate. For those of you who want a little comedy relief, of course you've probably seen the Bill Murray movie where he keeps doing the same thing and finally gets it right and moves on to the next day. I think a lot of that we can be sympathetic to. I genuinely feel uncomfortable when folks use, words, stalwart, legend, all that other sort of stuff. I've been so blessed to have this party. And for those of you, I'm certain many of you who are working on this convention today know exactly what I'm talking about. It takes a lot of effort to put this together. Certainly the things that I've accomplished could not have come close to being accomplished without the party. I think far too many times we libertarians discount our successes. And I can look around the room and it reminds me of some of them. Marty certainly knows. The first time I ran for governor and we beat the margin of victory so badly the state didn't know who their governor was going to be for about 3 weeks. When you went on the campaign trail, almost the first thing you ever heard is, well, all you libertarians want to do is, legalize dope. And it's like, well, it shouldn't have been criminalized. And you can't imagine the RCA Victor dog looks you got back in the 90s. Now all of a sudden people are starting to think about what are the federal boundaries, what is state obligations, and what they're supposed to do with respect to the enumerated powers. Once again, in the spirit of brevity, there are folks who have put together many conventions. One of them in this room is Dr. Jimmy Blake, who got some giants to come to past libertarian conventions, Murray Rothbard. The one that I'd like to mention the most in my short period of time is one John Denson. And for those of you who don't know, the Libertarian Party has quite a history. And you can't talk about the Libertarian Party of Alabama history without talking about John Denson. John Denson is what's responsible for bringing libertarian thought to Auburn University. It's one of the things that attracted me to Auburn University. John Denson looked Richard Nixon in the eye before the '72 election and said, Mr. President, we hear talk about wage and price controls, closing the gold window. Is any of that true? And as John Denson says it, I assure you I'm going to do none of that. Well, did he hold to his word? That was the birth of starting the Libertarian Party movement in Alabama. So back to Groundhog's Day. Starting to look at who our candidates are going to be. How many of you are really interested about voting for the Biden or Trump crime family again? But it sure looks like that's the same thing that you're going to get again. And I think that people have just gotten so accustomed to picking the red demon or the blue demon, go and pull the lever, and then they wonder why there's more evil in their lives. Well, I'm sorry, back to Groundhog Day, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, you're on the path to crazy. Libertarians have to have the courage when you're in a room full of crazies to be the only sane voice. At times, you will be the only sane voice trying to bring logic and reason to the argument. The only upstart political party that was, elected in less than 4 years of the president, or for the presidency, is what set us on our Soviet path. Think about that. There are folks that are looking for new parties, no labels. Some for the first time are thinking about looking at the Constitution Party, the Green Party, blah, 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 blah. Remind them, we have been around for a long time. We've actually had people elected, like Dr. Jimmy Blake here in Alabama, at least up in Birmingham. Tim Cowles elected up in Madison. Of course, Madison County, I'm hoping, is something that folks will talk about a lot with respect to ballot access and that huge accomplishment. But I find it humbling. The more and more folks want to applaud, what they see as my accomplishments, which aren't mine. They are the party's. We could not have accomplished what we've done without being the force that we have been in this state since the 70s. And I can tell you that just on the things that we've done that have made a difference, one of the ones that you've heard me talk about in the past that have come to past Libertarian Party conventions. When we had ballot access and I ran for governor in 2002, one of the central issues we made, property rights. The Williams family was kicked off their land, and we used them as the illustrative case. We went and pulled up the court record. In 1967, Judge Hildreth had the Alabama State Lands Division on record saying, well, we just don't think that Negro family should have their land. Now, what's nice about speaking before libertarians is we hate the wrong. We'd be just as angry if Mr. Williams was pink with purple polka dots. That's what throws people off. We're standing for principle. The Libertarian Party had their cage so rattled, specifically one Democratic governor, Don Sigelman, who claimed to care, wondering, why are these folks on the ballot? Why are we having to get Judge Myron Thompson not allowing them on the debates, even though they have party status? We had them so scared that they patented the land back to Mr. Williams the day before the primary to have a big press event about it, and they were supposed to have a big blue ribbon panel to deal with all these wrongful takings, especially by the Alabama State Lands Division. Well, thank God that the Williams family got their property back. Did they ever put together a blue ribbon panel? Did they ever ask me to be a part, or some of the real full professor economists I could bring to bear from places like Auburn and Clemson to give compensation to folks who had their properties wrongfully taken? Didn't happen. These are the things that we need to be proud of accomplishing. And I promise you, you cannot pin that on me. I've often been told I was the face of the Libertarian Party. Forgive me. You could certainly come up with a better looking face. When they said they were having trouble with the lighting, I said, great, with a face like mine, you want bad lighting. The light that I want to shine and folks to see is the light of liberty. It's powerful, it's ongoing. You have to get folks to come and be a part of this. And I mean, obviously, this is early on Friday. We're going to have more people here. But that spirit of liberty has to flow through us. And we have to connect, get more of these kindred spirits to bear. I mean, some folks say, well, what kind of first got under your hackles to sort of think about liberty? Well, I mean, some, obviously, the Gospels are full of instances and discussion about liberty. But there's this one Gospel about this guy who says he claims about the poor. He says, gee, why wasn't this sold for 300 denarii to give to the poor? Well, did he give a rip about the poor? No, he was in charge of the purse. So I ask you this, my dear libertarians. If you're in charge of the purse and you're skimming from the purse, do you want a fat purse or a thin purse? How many times do you hear people talk about, I care about education, the children, whatever the rhetoric is. They don't give a rip about the general welfare. They care about transferring wealth to themselves and to their cronies. Now, all of you have your specific talents, what you're good at. Follow them, use them. I tried to use what I think was my talent as a teacher. You're looking at one of those crazy libertarians who jump through all the hoops to go teach in the prisons. I promise you, I've taught honor students, I've taught the international officers at the Air War College in Montgomery. There was nothing more satisfying. There was no student I ever saw more appreciative than the students that I taught behind bars. And they understood the heavy lifting that was done to have me there. Now, I was blessed to be there, but I didn't make it happen. It's time for this old gray hair to sort of fade away, and I can't tell you how much it does my heart good to see young people stepping up to the plate. I was saying this exact thing earlier to Jonathan McGee. I mean, one of my former students sitting before you, Lance Farrar, has become an incredible Lee County watchdog member. They hate that we're there. We've earned their hatred. I would be upset if the Politburo did not hate our efforts. There are few things that you will get any more rewarding than having Politburo members hate what you're accomplishing, what you're exposing. And everything that we're exposing has nothing to do with us as individuals. It has everything to do with us understanding the spirit of liberty and trying to end tyranny at every point in our lives. One of the biggest mistakes libertarians can make is to think that government runs poorly. It runs extremely well when you understand the objective function. They leave very few margins unexploited with respect to the wealth transfers that they want to, and in fact, aid and abet. So I guess if I'm trying to stress one thing more than any other is, please don't look to me as the person that's the big input in all this. It is you who are the big input in this. Being a part of the Libertarian Party, paying your dues, showing up not only at your Libertarian Party, convention meetings, your county commission meetings, or your county affiliate meetings. If we don't get together and start talking through the wrongdoings that are happening before our very eyes, it makes their job so much easier. So, it's kind of time to say, are you going to weigh in? Are you going to continue to fight on? I pray you do, because what's at stake is so huge. It's really hard, I think, for us to comprehend in time T what we have to accomplish for our posterity, as the Constitution says. There were giants who came before me. And once again, I think the person in the room who can enumerate them and know it better than I, because he was in this effort much sooner than I, is Dr. Blake, with what he was doing up in Birmingham, bringing Murray Rothbard to the convention. These are the great thinkers of liberty. I'm just a lowly instructor. I think that I'm good at what I do with respect to my job and getting folks to think through and just applying the philosophy of liberty, for lack of better words. It's important that we understand our mission. I'm trying to keep this short. Oh, I thought somebody was coming to try and get us back on track. It is a little bit after 2. I feel like it's more important in a small group like this to open the floor for questions and maybe I can at least give you some illustrations of what I've endured and how I've skinned the cat over time. I mean, taking something up to the United States Supreme Court and winning unanimously was an arduous 12-year task. But we got noticed. And there was no one that had any illusions who we were and why I was doing what we were doing. I want, and okay, I'll volunteer it for some of the young people who don't know, probably what I'm most noted for is a bulldozer coming at my house, and I came to the door with an M14. There's a reason why you have your First Amendment and then the Second Amendment. If they're not going to listen to your grievances with the First Amendment, they actually start taking you a little bit more seriously when you exercise your Second Amendment. Now, what I'm hoping that you appreciate is, one of the things we want to have happen as libertarians is every door they knock on, they're going to be afraid that one of us is behind that door, who knows what our civil rights are and are willing to defend them. Now, I've told dear friends like Tom Hubbard, and you've already heard me say Lance Farrar as a former student, use me as the example. It's time for folks to say, we tried. The pen is mightier than the sword. I won unanimously in the United States Supreme Court. What's changed? The only thing that's going to change is fear of liberty. And liberty doesn't have much action associated with it without libertarians who are willing to put their shoulder into the fight. All right, any questions or two, or can we? Yes, sir.
Can you please explain to us why the margin of victory or the margin of defeat in your gubernatorial race matters? Why is it that the red tick or the blue tick and then this third party matters?
Sure. And what Mr. Farrar is trying to get me to explain is quit calling us spoilers, right? We're the folks that are forcing their hand a little. We beat the margin of victory in 2002 by 11-fold. And of course, what that did was they had the Democrats and Republicans scratching their heads saying, well, gee, if I had done this, I would have won. Oh, wait, if I had listened to them, I would have won. I wish I had saved the emails, ladies and gentlemen, that on the night of the election, they deemed Bob Riley the winner. My box got bombed and said, I hope you're happy you got the Republican elected. And then when Bob Riley fixed things down in Mobile, Baldwin County, and they deemed him the winner, my box got bombed by the Democrats and said, well, I hope you're happy you got Riley elected. Does anyone in this room think I give a rip which of those two parasites are sucking me dry? But what makes Mr. Farrar's question apropos is that's when you put the fear in them. If they know that we can come in and beat the margin of victory, and they see what they're voting for, then all of a sudden liberty starts getting some thought. Because now the blue tick or the red tick has to say, gee, what can I do to get those folks to vote for me on the margin? And once again, we start getting ballot access in a continuous manner. All of a sudden folks are going to feel more and more comfortable about voting for us. That's why I say I hope there's more discussion about what's going on in Madison, because that's where you're going to start to see the next beachhead for liberty, in my opinion, in Alabama. All right, I didn't run too long. We'll start getting back on course. I appreciate you being so attentive, and God bless all your efforts in making these sort of things happen across our state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sophocleus. I always enjoy listening to John. He is such an amazing speaker, and I always enjoy his company. And yes, you're never a spoiler. You're telling people what the Republicans and the Democrats, what they should be valuing, what they should be campaigning on if they want to try to attract more votes of people like us.